Support for WUWM podcast comes from Hop Harvest and Vine and Good Harvest Market in Pewaukee, part of One Destination, combining farm-to-table dining, local craft beers, and organic groceries under one roof. More at goodharvestmarket.com.
From 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR, this is Lake Effect. I'm Joy Powers. Today we'll hear the second episode of WUWM's new series about immigration pathways. Then we'll learn about ABCD, after breast cancer diagnosis, and how it helps people with breast cancer.
Research shows that the kind of support that ABCD provides, peer-to-peer emotional support, can make a profound difference on outcomes, on medical outcomes.
Plus, we'll learn about a business that's moving structures and buildings to make way for data centers.
To me, it would be nice to see more saved because we throw so much away. Everything nowadays is throwaway, and just a bigger way of recycling.
All of that is coming up on Lake Effect. This is Lake Effect from 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Joy Powers, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll start with a new podcast from WUWM, Status Pending. It takes an in-depth look at our immigration system through the eyes of the people most affected by it. This episode by reporter Audrey Nowakowski shares the story of Gul Dahan. She's lived in Milwaukee for 6 years, most of that time as an international student. Things have changed for international students in the U.S. in ways no amount of binge studying could get you ready for. So how did this process work? What's changed? And is there a path to stay?
Gul is from Beit Yehoshua, a small village in Israel. And ever since she was little, she loved basketball, a sport she's been playing since she was 6. It's actually what motivated her to go to college abroad.
The United States is the only place where you can combine education and sports in such a high level. So you can be a student and you can be an athlete. And in the United States, you can be a student athlete.
Gul didn't come to the U.S. for college right after she finished high school. In Israel, service in the military is mandatory after high school for those who are capable. Gul served as a combat instructor for 2 years. Then she did some traveling.
What's very common about the Israeli culture, which I love, after we've been so under rules and so strict for a couple of years, we go and travel. So I traveled with my best friend in New Zealand and Australia.
In 2018, Gul started the process to study abroad. She was working with private agents who help international student athletes specifically. They built a profile of her stats, basketball videos, things that American coaches can look at for recruitment.
And then they had a system that pretty much sends like hundreds and hundreds of emails to all over the country, to coaches, to schools. And you go to sleep at night and you pray that someone will reach out.
And a couple did. After her first offer fell through, Gul turned to Cardinal Stritch University in Milwaukee. She called up the basketball coach there to talk about the offer.
And I said, hey, is this still available? Can we do it? Said, let's talk. The next day we talked. The next day I signed, a week after I showed up here.
It took Gul about 1.5 years to take the steps to get an F1 student visa. She took the ACT and a test of English as a foreign language. One of the things you should know about student visas is that you have to prove you can pay tuition. Gul was lucky. She had support from her family and a partial athletic scholarship, so tuition wasn't a problem. But she was less certain about the next part of the process, interviewing with the U.S. Embassy in Israel.
That day is so anxiety-provoking because you're like, I'm going to go to the embassy and they're going to stare at me and ask me all the hard questions. So I had all the documents in one packet. You give it to them and they start to question you. Why are you doing this? Why are you coming to the States? What's your means? You say you're a student. You say you're an athlete. Can you tell us what you're playing? Things like that. That they want to see that you're coming here with good intention.
Gul's visa was approved on the same day as the interview. Within 2 weeks, a student visa sticker was added to her passport, and she was free to fly to the U.S. Studying abroad doesn't just benefit international students. Colleges benefit too. For one, international students don't often get scholarships unless they're tied to athletics, so that means more money. Plus, international students could help a college create a more diverse campus. And for colleges struggling with declining enrollment, international students can help with that too. The school Gall went to, Cardinal Stritch University, actually closed due to low enrollment soon after she graduated. Most colleges have an international office that works with foreign students. The colleges also work with U.S. Homeland Security, which issues paperwork, vets students, and monitors whether schools follow federal guidelines. So both the students and the colleges have to keep their paperwork up to date with the federal government. So in 2019, with her visa in hand and a spot on the basketball roster waiting, Gall went from the shores of the Mediterranean Sea to the shores of Lake Michigan to attend Cardinal Stritch in Milwaukee. She was 22. Right away, she and other international students had a crash course in what they could and couldn't do.
One of the first things that popped to me right away that we're not allowed to work off campus. Nothing, anything is illegal.
Students under an F1 visa also need to take at least 12 credits per semester to be considered full-time students. There's also this form called an I-20, which needs to be signed by the university every 6 to 12 months to stay valid and let you travel without complications. Gall says she also had to be careful to avoid any kind of outside trouble, like even getting a speeding ticket.
The beginning is very overwhelming. Signature? What signature? I can't work. How can I? How many hours?
While basketball was physically demanding and time-consuming, Gall says it also saved her in a way. The court was a safe space she could rely on, and sport is its own international language. Outside of basketball, the cultural differences were a bit more pronounced.
When I came here, I was very, we call it like ethnocentric, which means like the culture is only like there's one culture that fits all. Everyone behaves the same. And I truly thought like this. So I came here and I just assumed that my rituals, my expectations, my social behaviors, like whatever that is, would just fit what I grew up on. This was far from reality. I just had no idea.
Adjusting to a new culture took years, during which she went through different stages of culture shock. First, the honeymoon phase.
America, this is amazing, like, oh my God, I love this place. This is so cool. And, everything is so, you don't even think you're missing home because you're having so much fun.
Gall was also a Jewish student at a Catholic Franciscan university. She swapped the crucifix in her dorm for a mezuzah, a scroll rolled up and attached to the doorpost of Jewish homes. But she assumed she had to give up most of her cultural traditions in order to be accepted. This meant leaving the Friday Shabbat candles behind, not celebrating the holidays she did back home, and instead learning about Thanksgiving and Christmas and trying to celebrate those alongside her classmates.
And the more I did it, the more lonely I felt. I felt horrible. And I felt like I had no choice, but I did because I was scared. What are people going to say? What are people going to do? And again, it's not that I'm doing anything religious. It was more cultural for me and traditional.
It all took a toll on Gall's mental health. She remembers having a panic attack one night her freshman year.
I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, I can't do this. And he's like, Gall, it's 2 a.m. Like, can we talk about this tomorrow? And I'm like, no, that's it. I can't do this. And he told me, Gall, don't think 4 years. Just think about tomorrow, like day by day. You don't have to do anything right now. Go to sleep. Tomorrow's a new day and we can talk about it tomorrow. And I felt like I was locked. I have to stay here. I have to do this. Like, you don't. Because I told him I'm going back home. And he's like, okay, when should I book your flight? And I was like, oh, I'm not stuck. And he's like, I'm booking it to you. When do you want tomorrow? And I'm like, no, I have a game tomorrow. And I have an exam in a week. I can't. And like suddenly the reality kicks in.
Gall says she knew she had the choice to go home if she wanted. But she decided to keep trying.
And it's worth it because this was my dream. Even when you dream, there can be nightmares. It's still a dream. It's part of it.
Eventually, Gall learned that she didn't need to hide who she was.
I wish just someone told me like, hey, you can be yourself here, If you want to fast on your holiest day of the Judaism, you don't have to practice today. You can fast. Because the moment I did, my coaches were like, of course. Oh my God, yeah. But I didn't know. I just assumed that is wrong. Where in fact, Stritch was so welcoming to everyone.
One of the moments she felt most accepted was when the Catholic school held its first ever menorah lighting ceremony for Hanukkah when she was a junior. Gall played a role in making it happen.
They're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, let's celebrate, Hanukkah, all of us. And the team was like so fun and supportive. They took pictures with me next to the menorah. Like, I still have those pictures.
Gall says once she found her community, Stritch felt like home. She graduated in 2023 with degrees in corporate communication and social media and psychology. At 26, Gall wasn't just facing the end of undergrad, but her visa too.
So when I approached that stage, I was like, I want to stay here. How can I do that? The best thing you can do, F1, student visa, keep studying.
She got accepted into Marquette University for a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. That meant she could apply to extend her F1 student visa.
I could breathe for 2 more years. I wanted to stay. I was not ready to go back because I felt like I have more stuff to do here. And I started to fall in love with Milwaukee too. I felt part of the community suddenly, and I said, hey, this is a place where I can imagine myself being.
At Cardinal Stritch, Gall had a built-in support system living on campus and being part of the basketball team. Her life as a grad student was lonelier. She even considered dropping out. Was staying in Milwaukee worth the $60,000 she was paying for this master's program?
So even navigating through the financial barriers, how am I going to pay tuition if my salary is so low? How can I do that? And even as international students, we're not allowed to work more than 20 hours a week.
No matter what country you come from to study in the U.S., one thing is universal. It is expensive to be an international student. All right, so let's go over the numbers. There's the cost of tuition, fees to keep your legal status up to date, spending thousands of dollars to fly back to your home country if you can afford it. There's cost of living, transportation, and so much more. Gall was able to make this work financially only because she had outside help from her family and community. While she did get a partial athletic scholarship at Cardinal Stritch, Marquette was all out of pocket.
People from my close circle, whether if it's like community or my family, helped me and supported me through this. But it is a barrier, I feel like, especially for international students.
Gall had the biggest scare of her international student journey during grad school. A clerical error almost sent her home. So remember the rule about international students not being allowed to work off campus? Well, there is actually one exception. An internship related to your field of study. If you get approved, the internship goes on an immigration form that international students need to keep up to date. During her second semester of grad school, Gall got an internship, but technically, she was working illegally.
Long story very short, something fell between the chairs. I didn't know I needed to sign that form. I feel like the communication between the international office at Marquette and me, something was just not effective enough. So what happened was that basically I did something that was problematic. And once my office found out, I got a very scary email that basically I'm getting deported unless I'm going to fix it now.
This error caused Gall to lose her visa. To get it back, she'd have to leave the country. So she spent the money to fly to Canada, renew the visa, pay the fee again, and return to the U.S.
And my scare was like at the immigration point in Canada, I might be flagged in the system because it's a new visa. That was my fear. And everything was fine. He looked at me and he said, welcome to the United States. And I entered. But I didn't know it's going to be okay.
The stress of this experience still sticks with Gall. She didn't want what happened to her to happen to any other international students.
I had a long talk with one of the people at Marquette in the international office, like, you guys are our families. You guys are our guides. If you don't guide us, we will fall in the systems, with the laws, with the regulations. We will fall. So we need you to be communicative and care about us enough to not let this happen.
After the near deportation scare, Gall had everything squared away. With her new visa, she completed the program in 2 years. So what now? In order to stay in the U.S., she would have to start a job in her field of study within 60 days of graduating. Students on F1 visas can get permission to stay in the U.S. for a short time to work in their field through something called Optional Practical Training, or OPT. That was Gal's plan. She started filling out job applications 5 months before graduation. More roadblocks.
I wanted to work in hospital settings, but here's another limitation. In the application process, they ask you, would you require a sponsorship down the road, which means basically a legal procedure for a non-U.S. citizen to work in the U.S.? And once you click yes, it kicks you out of the application.
After lots of dead ends, Gal was offered a job as a mental health therapist at Hillary Counseling, a private boutique practice in Milwaukee's 3rd Ward.
And for me to sit in that chair, to give people the power and help them to do that in their own way, in a creative way, is a blessing. And I can't do that anymore? In a year? What am I going to do?
Remember, Gal's work permit is temporary, which brings us to today. Gal is only allowed to work here legally until June of 2026, and her options to stay after that are, again, limited.
Those routes were designed for certain things, and I feel like it wasn't designed for it. Do your education, come contribute to the country, play for our team, bring us championships, and get out. And I don't want to. I want to be here. I love the United States. I want to contribute to my Milwaukee community. I love Wisconsin.
She has a few potential options, none of them simple or easy. 1, marry a U.S. citizen. While Gal says she's lucky enough to have a partner who's a citizen, she doesn't want to put pressure on their relationship.
So that's not the route I'm thinking, and that's not the route I'm taking unless we need to, and not because let's get married to save, just because of love and because of hope and marriage.
Another route, applying for an H-1B visa. This is a sponsorship visa that the company you work for can apply for on your behalf, with a fee, of course. The Trump administration recently raised that fee to $100,000 for new applicants. Yes, you heard me right, $100,000. Before, it typically cost employers between $2,000 to $5,000. On top of that, H-1B is a lottery system. There's less than a 20% chance someone like Gal gets picked. Another pathway, apply for a business visa, which is a long, complicated process. Or she could go back to school for a doctorate and extend her student visa. But this might not be as straightforward as it used to be. The Trump administration has proposed changes that would limit the time international students can stay in the U.S. and make it harder for them to work here.
And unfortunately, because it's not the case for everyone, people fall and they have to go back home. So there's not always a path. And even if you do think that you take the right path, you might find yourself out the door.
In fact, international students have faced a lot of uncertainty during Trump's second term. Some have been detained by ICE for their campus activism. The government is now vetting social media accounts from visa applicants, and there's a travel ban on some countries. Israel is not included. Right now, Gal isn't sure which path she might take to stay in the U.S. In the last couple years, one of the most challenging things for Gal has been navigating the fallout from the war in Gaza as an Israeli in the U.S. If she has to go back to Israel, she's worried about her safety. There's no predicting what the situation might look like by the time her work permit ends next summer. Gal says her brother and his wife almost died during Iranian retaliatory strikes against Israel back in June, and she's lost a friend she sat next to throughout high school. She couldn't go back to Israel for his funeral. The war also changed how Gal navigates her life in the U.S. She says she never felt scared to say she's from Israel until recently, and some of her friendships have come to an end because of it.
I was never placed in such a hard situation like now. That the news and the things that my country is doing define who I am. I didn't choose to be born where I was. I didn't choose this war, and I didn't choose anything that's related to it. So if you want to keep hating and you want to keep blaming, you can do that, not to me. Because I'm not going to let you. Hate is never the answer. War is never the answer for me.
Even with this tension, Gal wants to stay here. She's built a life for herself in Milwaukee that she loves and is proud of. I first met Gal a couple years ago when I was covering the closure of Cardinal Stritch University. She's a strong, confident, and open person. Even as she's juggled all the stresses that come with being an international student and recent grad, she pretty much always has a positive attitude. After we spent a lot of time together talking about her journey, I had one last question. This interview is focusing on the international student pathway and where it's led you today. So for the past 6 years or so, you've identified as an international student. How do you identify yourself now?
I love that question. It's just, I had all those definitions my whole life, and once I lost those, I felt lost. What am I going to say? I'm not a basketball player anymore. And again, this is a whole identity crisis, I feel like, especially for international students or athletes. But I realized that all those experiences shape who I am, and I don't have to have those tags to be valuable. So my name is Gal Dahan. I'm a therapist in Milwaukee. I love what I do. I'm 28. I'm from Israel, and I love this life, So it sounds so funny, but it's simple.
Perfect thing to close out on.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was Audrey Nowakowski with the second episode of WUWM's new podcast, Status Pending. You can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. New episodes in the limited series drop each Wednesday. In about 15 minutes, we'll learn about the impact the Port Washington Data Center is having on that community, including what happens to the buildings on the land planned for the campus. But first, we'll learn about ABCD, After Breast Cancer Diagnosis, a local organization helping people with breast cancer navigate life. That's coming up on Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. You're listening to Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Joy Powers. Breast cancer is never a welcome diagnosis, but for each person with the disease, there's a different set of circumstances that can make treatment difficult to navigate. Whether it's childcare concerns, getting time off work, or even reimagining goals and ambitions, everyone with breast cancer has to forge their own path forward. But they don't have to do it alone. A local organization called ABCD, or After Breast Cancer Diagnosis, helps people with breast cancer connect with mentors. They're matched based on having similar life experiences and diagnoses to help support people with this disease. Ellen Freebert-Schupper is the executive director of ABCD and a recipient of this year's Betty Award from Milwaukee Magazine. She joins me now to talk about ABCD. Ellen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Now, before you started working at ABCD, what was your experience with cancer diagnoses?
So my closest connection to cancer was when my father was diagnosed with metastatic lung cancer in June of 2013. And unfortunately, he passed away only 10 weeks later. It was a very intense summer, a very hard summer. It was a time in my life when I lived in the same city as my dad here in Milwaukee. I was working very full time. I had 3 young kids. I had a husband. I was also caring for my mom as she was caring for my dad. I was put in a position of being the primary communicator of everything that was going on with my dad's care. And it was a very emotionally charged experience for me.
As your experience really illustrates, there's no time where a cancer diagnosis is welcome, but also often when a cancer diagnosis happens, there are a million other things that you're juggling in your life. As you started working with ABCD, what are some of the common issues that you hear from people after they've gotten this kind of breast cancer diagnosis?
Feelings of loneliness, isolation, overwhelm, fear, depression are all common things that people share with our organization about how they are feeling after a diagnosis. They also feel guilt, they feel alone, they feel misunderstood, and they also feel almost a burden of, they know that so many people around them are also scared and concerned and want to help, but they don't have the safe space to share the real feelings that they are having related to their diagnosis. I can relate to those feelings that I felt so intensely as a caregiving daughter. Well, I've never had breast cancer, so therefore I've never heard the words, "you have breast cancer." There's a connection and an understanding that I can have with the people that we're supporting, but in no way can I say that I understand what someone is feeling. And that's what the magic is of our organization. By having over 300 mentors across the country who are connected to people that reach out to us and can honestly, openly, and authentically say, "I get it. I get what you're feeling." That's the power of ABCD. That's the power of connections that we provide here at our organization.
Yeah. Now tell us a bit about the mentorship program. How does it work?
So people reach out to us either by, filling out a form online or calling us or email us. People who have just been diagnosed with breast cancer, or someone who is at high risk for developing the disease, someone who's living with stage 4 metastatic disease, or someone who's caring for a loved one with breast cancer. They reach out to us from across Milwaukee, across the state of Wisconsin, and because all of our services are virtual, we support people across the United States and even outside of the United States as well. We find out about their specific diagnosis, their specific treatment. Are they having a double mastectomy, a lumpectomy? Are they in the midst of deciding on if they want reconstruction? Are they having radiation, chemotherapy? We find out as much as they know about their treatment at the time that they call us. And we also find out who they are as a person. Are they a young mom? Have they just retired? Are they someone who is about to get married? Are they pregnant? All the elements of a person's life that are still part of who they are as they are dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis. We then take all that information and we make a match with one of our mentors. All of our mentors are fully trained on how to provide emotional support. So a match is made between a mentor who is just like or has had a very similar experience to someone who needs support. And then the connection is made and our mentors reach out to the person who needs support, and they are able to have the real conversations. They're able to talk about the concerns and or get advice or get answers to questions that, only someone who's really been there and really had to face the same situations, make the same decisions can truly understand.
Yeah. My mom and my sister have both had breast cancer several times. My sister has had breast cancer now 3 times. The first time she was diagnosed, she was, I believe, 26 years old. She's worked both as a person who's done hotlines, but also received services, especially when she was first diagnosed. And one of her big complaints was that so many of these groups really focus on older people. She had a difficult time finding people who were more similar to her. What is it about, really matching people up with people who can empathize with them on that level? What is it that is so important for especially someone going through this kind of diagnosis?
Well, thank you so much, Joy, for sharing that story, because your sister really gets it. And I think that what you just shared makes it even more understandable about the importance of what it is that we do. Life stages matter, and the challenges and realities of a 26-year-old woman like your sister are vastly different than a 62-year-old woman. And when we layer on a breast cancer diagnosis, that is a complicated and complex diagnosis at any age and stage in life, but it's different for a 26-year-old who may be in the process of dating, or maybe is just married, or with a breast cancer diagnosis will need to talk about and consider her fertility options, who may be at the beginning of her career. Versus thinking about the 62-year-old woman, it's just a different life stage. That woman might be facing and considering how a breast cancer diagnosis is going to impact her retirement plans, her ability to help her children who may be in the process of getting married. I mean, the life stage matters, as does the breast cancer diagnosis. And for us, it's not about who's next on the helpline. It's about finding the right person to have meaningful and important conversations that truly make a profound difference in someone's life. And I'll share that research shows that the kind of support that ABCD provides, peer-to-peer emotional support, can make a profound difference on outcomes, on medical outcomes. Yes, what we're doing is absolutely crucial to saving people's lives who are faced with a life-changing, life-altering diagnosis like breast cancer. We often say that what we provide is empathy, not sympathy. And those two words mean different things. And it can often be said that people who have not had a similar experience or had breast cancer, there's unbelievable amounts of sympathy and support that someone can give to a loved one or a friend, but you don't get it unless you get it. You can't provide empathy unless you truly understand the experience of someone else.
For sure. As you look toward the future of ABCD, what's your goal? What do you ultimately hope you can do with ABCD?
This year in 2025, ABCD is experiencing an increase in demand of 47% compared to 2024. Now, that does not reflect an increase in the rates of breast cancer, and nor is it a 47% increase in demand every day. But what it does show and represent is that the work that we have been doing here at ABCD to raise awareness about our services and the importance of our services is truly being heard, seen, and we are being found more than ever before. And my goals are to continue on this tremendous momentum that we've been creating and generating so that we can reach and support even more people that are impacted by breast cancer. I mean, there's millions of people will be diagnosed with breast cancer every year. When we think back to our founding in 1999 by the legendary Milwaukee broadcast journalist Melody Wilson Oldenburg, I mean, her vision was that no one should face breast cancer alone. And she had goals and intentions of reaching as many people as possible. From 1999 to 2009, when unfortunately she died from metastatic disease, in the 10 years that she led ABCD, she was able to drive awareness about the organization, throughout Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin, at a time when, it was very much a phone-based organization. It was before the internet, before email, before social media for sure. But what we've been doing, especially in the last 8 years, since that's when I joined ABCD, what we've been able to do is harness technology and leverage the many opportunities to reach people in a virtual format so that we could reach and support even more people that need our services. I'm very proud of the fact of our growth and expansion, and especially as it ties back to the founding vision of Melody Wilson Oldenburg, that she really wanted to serve as many people as possible.
Ellen Freebert-Schupper is the executive director of ABCD, After Breast Cancer Diagnosis. She's also a recipient of Milwaukee Magazine's Betty Award for 2025. A massive data center campus is being constructed in Port Washington. Elected officials there say the project will be a boon for the community. But not all residents are on board. Some are concerned about the environmental impact, their bills, and quality of life. WUWM has been exploring this data center debate, and today we'll look at buildings. Vantage Data Centers is the company building this campus. It's purchased more than 100 properties in Port Washington, which means some buildings need to go. That's where David DeVote comes in. He moves buildings for a living. He sees this land purchase as an opportunity to reuse existing structures, rather than have them end up in a landfill. WUWM's environmental reporter Susan Bentz met with DeVote to learn about his work.
We're moving a 24 by 40 pole shed. To my understanding, it's roughly about 20 years old.
2 doors, one biggie and a small one.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you have to do to prep it to move it?
So this one, being a pole building, it has poles going into the ground. So what we first do is set up our rigging on the inside, attach our equipment to each pole on the inside of the building, and we gradually add a little bit of pressure to raise everything, and then we cut all the poles off at the bottom. Once the poles are all lifted, then we go up and we install our wheels and install the truck on the front end.
So how long did that process take, give or take?
We were on site for about 7 hours.
Okay.
We do have a little prep to load the equipment to get down here and the prep, to get home too. So
yeah,
we have a little over a day into this building here.
And so we would be who?
Me
Names,
and my crew. It's 4 of us.
4 of you.
When four.
So when you hook this up, there'll be 4 of you as well, or 4 when you move?
We'll have, 4 of us, a minimum on the move. Sometimes I bring in some extra help if it's a more challenging one. This one is a fairly simple move. Nice wide roads, good county roads to move on, good county to move in. So this one, we'll be around 4 people. We'll have a couple of our own private escorts that will be in front and back of the load, and then we'll also have the sheriff department out here with 2 of their officers also escorting us, assisting us on the road.
So where is this Pole Barn's new home going to be?
This one's going on the west side of Belgian on County Road D.
Same owners?
Same owners. The father owned this property. He was bought out. And they decided, I think, the son, to give it to the son, and they're saving it, and they're repurposing it. And it's a perfectly good shed. Up to the day we moved it, they were using it. Parked their cars in it every day.
Yeah, and the other barn is not moving.
The other barn we are moving. We're taking that one. We're going to save it and see if somebody would want it, or we'll take it back to our place. It's just another opportunity to save another building.
So in that case, they sold it to you, or how does that work? Or does it vary by the project?
It varies by the project.
Yeah.
Depends on what it is. Sometimes they would rather see them saved versus just ending up in a landfill.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the cost of the demolition either, so it saves people money in certain cases. So some buildings are given to you or paid for $1, and some you might have to pay a few thousand for. But it all varies for each project.
So in this case, the homeowners are the people who own this, because this is all going one way or the other.
Yes.
They're responsible for the demolition?
No, they are not.
Oh,
They
okay.
had the rights to their buildings. So they were allowed to take any of the, inside of the building. In this case, they were allowed to take the buildings, and then they can leave whatever they don't take. They have a certain day that they have to be off, and then whatever they don't have off, then that's not theirs.
So they've moved.
They have moved. They have another place. Yes. It would be nice to see a few more buildings saved. Not every building is worth saving, and sometimes it's not feasible all the time. But having a little bit extra time and doing a little more research, the ability to save a few more buildings versus going to a landfill, I mean, to me, outweighs any of it,
How did this particular project come to you, David?
These people reached out to me looking at getting their shed moved. They didn't know exactly what they were going to do in the beginning, if they were going to take it to the next place where they were going to go, where they moved to, or if they were going to put it at their son's place. So it took them a little while to decide, and I eventually gave them a price roughly about 6 months ago, and then it took them a little while to get planning and, to get it laid out. And they have a slab where it's going, so when we get it there, we'll have it set down the next day.
What does it cost somebody decides we want to keep whatever it is we've got and move it? I'm sure it varies by the structure, and a house would be...
It varies by the structure, it varies by the distance of how far you have to go. The height, that would determine how far you can go, which will be the price cost. We have somewhat of basic prices for certain things, like this is a pole shed. We were at $7,500 to move this. You'll never build it for that,
Yeah.
We are less than half of the materials that it costs to build it.
Right.
So it's very feasible what we can do, as long as it's a good situation like this was. This is a fairly easy job, and everything went right on it. And an easy move, close to get there, so there's no obstructions that would make the price go up anymore. Typical houses, you get anywhere from the $30,000 to $40,000 range to move them, depending on what they are and how far they got to go. That's just a typical smaller house. When you get to bigger houses, they end up to be a little bit more money.
Is there the possibility that you are going to be moving a couple houses?
There are people looking at moving a few other homes in the area, real close. They're toying with the possibility and getting numbers, and them are a little bit bigger houses. They go a little bit further distance, so there's a lot more planning on it. We're just down here helping them to try to get it done. It's just a hard thing when nobody does it a lot. It's not done in this area very much, from what the county and the sheriff department has told me, and this was one of the first ones in a while, but they are working on it, and we might know within a month if that project would go. That's 4 buildings that would be moved in another area and set up.
Tell me about the history of your business. It started with your dad. It started as a part-time gig, right?
My father started it right before he went into college. He went into college at 18 to be a teacher, and he had known about the house moving business from my grandfather that had a few moved. And at the college that he was at in Michigan, they were expanding and taking out houses, and he just happened to buy a house and buy a lot, and had a local mover come to help him move it. And back then, late 60s, in that era, they helped each other. And eventually the guy was getting older, and he sold the equipment to my dad, and then my dad moved another one. And originally he was setting them up just on the side for a little extra income, and he was doing that through college. He got a teaching job eventually. That's how we moved to Wisconsin. We're originally from Marquette, Michigan. And he taught for a few years, and back then the teaching, they weren't paying that well, and the house moving was doing okay. A lot of expanding back then. We did have I-43 was still going through back in that day. A lot of roads were going on. Here we are today, we moved quite a few buildings. It's my father has since passed away. My brother works out on the East Coast. He deals with flood mitigation and lifts up homes after the hurricanes come, and I'm more out here in the Midwest, moving things around, saving buildings that are slated for demolition.
Aside from the importance of a livelihood, the importance in your mind of saving versus demoing and things ending up in landfill is meaningful to you.
Mm-hmm. To me, it would be nice to see more saved, because we throw so much away. Everything nowadays is throwaway, and just a bigger way of recycling. And we see these buildings that have a little bit of time that could be saved. The ones that could be repurposed for the housing. We have a housing issue now. There's so many buildings. They tear a building down every day. There's a building getting tore down. We could save some of them, and they could be repurposed for housing. So it's not only that I benefit from the moving, or the plumbers, or the concrete guy, the community itself does for the rest of its life.
David DeVote is the owner of DeVote House Lifters. He spoke with WUWM's environmental reporter Susan Benz. Coming up, we'll visit Milwaukee's Silent Book Club. That's next on Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. This is Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Joy Powers. Silent book clubs are popping up all over the world, including right here in Milwaukee. But what are they? WUWM's Excret Nunez and Ma'ian Silver stopped by a silent book club in Bayview to find out.
Walk into Component Brewing Company on a weeknight, and you'll hear the sounds of a typical bar. The bartender is slinging snifters filled with IPAs and lagers to people sitting around and talking on tall orange bar stools. Garage punk lilts in the background.
But look a little closer and you'll see a smattering of others silently reading, spaced around the room. Some have their eyes buried in ebooks, others are looking at paperbacks or hardcovers. Many of them are strangers, and they're each reading something different.
What am I reading? I'm reading Moby Dick.
I'm reading Parable of the Talents.
Tim Sense and Jacob Anderson are sitting at the same long wooden table. They're here for Silent Book Club, and they're trying to figure out whether they've met before.
Were you reading the Silmarillion last time?
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we did. I thought so.
Yeah, we did meet the first time I came. We met, yeah.
A silent book club gives readers a chance to be social, but it unfolds a bit differently than in a traditional book club. First of all, you don't have to read the same book. Silent book club also happens in a public place instead of someone's home. Think coffee shop or bar. The first hour usually involves some on-scene solo reading of a book of your choosing. The second part of the night is when you vibe with other readers. Here's book club goer Tim Sense.
Well, we generally, and this isn't really structured, it's just kind of how it happens, we generally sort of just ask each other, what are you reading? And we present our book, and generally people kind of chime in if they've heard of it or if they've read it.
The whole meeting usually lasts about 2 hours and takes place once a month, usually on Tuesdays at various locations. And you can join in on any or all of it, says Meredith Klusman, the curator of Milwaukee's Silent Book Club chapter.
This takes that pressure away and allows people the freedom to come and read the whole time, and nobody's going to bat an eye at you. You can come and read for 5 minutes and then be like, I'm not feeling it today, I just want to hang out and talk, and people will absolutely dive into that too. Because the core, for me at least, is to create those connections, especially as a transplant to Milwaukee. That's really what drove me to want to do it in the first place.
Klusman's Milwaukee chapter isn't alone. Silent book clubs are popping up everywhere. According to the Silent Book Club website, there are over 1,400 chapters in 54 countries. Klusman says she got the idea from TikTok and started Milwaukee's first chapter in the summer of 2023. I asked her about how popular it's become.
I saw the Facebook page. Almost 900 people.
I don't promote it at all. I made the page and I sent it to my 5 cousins that live in Milwaukee and was like, all right. And I'm assuming that other people saw the social media posts that I saw on TikTok or whatever and were like, hey, let's check it out.
Anderson, one of the readers who showed up tonight, says he appreciates turning reading from something you do by yourself to something social.
People who are willing to go and read a book in public silently are usually like-minded people, so.
He also says he just likes to experience new things.
Sometimes days can blend together. They don't when I do a silent book club day.
As the first hour of reading winds down, more people join Anderson, Sense, and Klusman at the table to discuss their books. One person is reading Sherlock Holmes, which sparks some conversation.
Like a symbolized language and figure out.
Wow. Like the answer to the mystery is actually in the reading.
If you can decode. That's what I remember. I mean, maybe.
Klusman, the organizer, says the community aspect of the club is important to her, especially during the times we're living in.
I feel like the world can be a very divisive place, especially within the last couple of years. I feel like as much as we try to move with empathy and embrace uniqueness and diversity, that's very clearly not the MO of everybody in the world. So it's really important to me to foster an environment that's inclusive of everyone.
Thankfully, to no one's surprise, readers make wonderful customers. Component Brewing bartender Casey Sams is all for normalizing reading at a bar, or in any public place, really. And he has something to say to anyone who thinks it may be weird to do so.
First of all, book readers are not weirdos. Let's make sure we let everyone know that. But yes, I agree with having the community part, because how I might interpret what I'm reading could be totally different than what you're interpreting. You know, you get some good conversations and maybe you learn something new.
We're going to start in about 10 minutes. If you haven't already, come on up for it.
As the vibe at Component Brewing Company shifts from punk rock silent reading to its themed trivia night, Klussman starts thinking about the next silent book club meeting. She says anyone is welcome to come turn the page with them, or with the second chapter of the club that recently opened up in the Milwaukee area. It's a moment to drink, read, and be social.
That was WUWM's Excret Nunez and Maian Silver, visiting a silent book club meeting in Bayview last November. You can learn more about Milwaukee's Silent Book Club chapter at WUWM.com. And that wraps up today's show. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm Joy Powers. If you missed any of Lake Effect this week, you can find all of our conversations at WUWM.com. If you'd like to take the show on the go, you can download the Lake Effect podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow on Lake Effect, we'll speak with a group of college students working to get ICE agents off their campus. Plus, we'll look into what's happening to Milwaukee's disappearing street signs. Thanks so much for joining us right here on listener-supported 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.